Guys, LinkedIn, welcome. I'm Brennan Lemon. Of course, we've got Chris Kuba here. And with us today, we are excited to have a very special guest. We have Joy Dasgupta. Joy, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So last time we were on, we talked a lot about loyalty. And Chris was like, I know somebody who knows a thing or two about loyalty. Yeah. And we reached out to you to have you come on the program, and we really are glad to have you. So thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Joy, tell us, give us the 30-second background on your experience, why I have the fortune of having had a chance to know you recently, and we'll kick off into the conversation today. Hopefully Brendan's camera will keep freezing into silly positions like it did in the opening.
Sure.
It's guaranteed.
It's a guarantee. See, it's already happening. We're like already. It's like Mr. Roboto. I'm a loyalty consultant. I've been working with a variety of different brands for actually the last 6 years now. But prior to that, I worked for Starbucks for 13 years. And when you work for Starbucks for that long, you get a ringside seat to multiple changes of the loyalty program. So I've worked on multiple iterations, and that's where I really cut my teeth. So I've learned about ways to create loyalty programs, ways to change them, things that work, things that cause, close to rebellion from your customers. And so I've had the good fortune of now working with a multitude of brands across everything from running shoes to children's books on loyalty.
Well, as I use my Starbucks mug.
I was going to say, you also get a mountain of coffee that you get to take home with your mark out. I used to be a partner at Starbucks and remember that very well.
The pound of coffee, I miss that. That was fantastic.
It was a great perk. But I'm curious, I want to know, I hope we get to the story about the rebellion that was caused from some of your customers.
Well, I mean, I think you see this right now.
Has an amazing loyalty program.
Pardon? Sorry, say that again.
Oh, there we go. I was going to say, Starbucks famously has an amazing loyalty program and really sort of set the standard. So I'm curious kind of to hear more about what you learned through that program that you've then sort of applied in the rest of your life consulting.
Yeah, that's like a whole hour conversation. But basically what I've learned is loyal customers, this will sound very basic, but they don't like it when you take things away from them. And we've seen that recently actually with Delta, right? How they changed their program and it was like a mini revolt. So with Starbucks, when we retired different programs or programmatic elements, every single time you see sort of this collective anger. So one program that Starbucks used to have that you may remember was you could actually buy a Starbucks Gold Card and it would give you 10% off all your purchases way back over 10 years ago. And that was a Gold Card. And, eventually it was pretty clear that just letting people buy their way into a discount is margin dilutive. And that had to end. So to take a program like that away, of course, it really angers consumers. Because people feel entitled, right? And so one of the biggest learnings that I think we've had is, and interestingly, a lot of brands still don't do this, is if you take away, you need to add something back into the pot. So, for example, when Starbucks devalued its star program, this was one of the first changes. It went from, you used to have to collect 12 stars or 12 visits to get a free drink. Okay, way back. And we'd send you a postcard in the mail, snail mail, that said, hey, come and get your free drink. Of course, with inflation, those become those kinds of benefits. And one of the challenges with loyalty programs is they become increasingly expensive as a percent of your sale or a percent of your cart size. So that got devalued to, instead of 12 stars for a free drink, it became 15. But one of the things that Starbucks did that was so smart is it was no longer just 15 stars for a free drink. It became 15 stars for free drink and food. So
Ooh.
by devaluing the currency and adding something back in, what was really interesting is how social media, then people start to have that conversation on your behalf and say, yes, I know I have to spend more to get my free drink, but I also now have the choice of getting a free breakfast sandwich or something else of value in terms of food.
Mhm.
And so I don't want to suggest consumers are incredibly smart, incredibly dialed in, but they do defend you when they really sense that you're trying to at least keep them whole or to give them something of benefit or of value.
I
Yeah,
wouldn't
you're
mind free meals right now to combat inflation too. So it sounds like this. I'm gonna write my legislator right in this second.
this
Please
would
be
be like
more
a
like
very
Starbucks.
helpful.
Help me with groceries. That's really interesting, Joy. I have a question on that. It seems like that was obviously we're talking about innovation here, and that was a necessary innovation tied to a economic challenge in running their program, which I know seems like every program, if it runs long enough, is going to have to face. Are there other examples, whether Starbucks or brands you've worked with or consulted with, who have innovated because of other reasons, maybe less, I want to say less necessary, because I think innovation is always, there's something driving the need for it, but are there other times in which they've pushed the envelope, whether Starbucks or others, where you've looked at it and go, hey, this innovation really critical, really successful, but maybe not because of the program economics, but for other reasons?
I mean, truthfully, I do think it's largely economic driven,
Yeah.
right? That's what
Mm.
pushes all our brands and our marketing. I think perhaps one example of a program that really expanded over the last 5 years to really incorporate their brand mission is REI. It
Mm.
used to be that you would pay a fee, you'd be in the and you'd receive your rebates. And they started to do a lot more packaging of member benefits that were also in line with their values. So, for example, you could trade in gently used gear for REI and receive a gift card back. So, that's a way to kind of promote your environmental
Yeah.
some sustainability mission, encourage people to not necessarily feel guilty about like, hey, I want to trade up to that next better sleeping bag.
Yep.
And that may or may not have been economically driven,
Yeah.
depending on what the secondary market is for those
That's such a
products.
great example,
Good example.
mostly
Yeah.
because REI is one of my favorite brands. Brendan and I actually spent some
Same.
time talking about my love of the outdoors, and I actually wore a flannel shirt again just to prove to him that I owned more than one, because last live stream he called out my
He's got the same one every time. Where it's part of the white dude in his 30s to 40s uniform, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you guys can keep
check.
working on your passion, right?
Yeah.
I'm such a huge fan of that brand.
For sure, and you know, REI has had definitely their challenges, but I would expect to continue to see innovation. I can give you another example, Chris, of I think
Please.
innovation. So if you think about some of the true consumer insights based on loyalty programs, it's that, you know, I can't earn fast enough or big enough for it to be meaningful for me, especially when you think about like airline miles.
Yeah, that's the one that came
500
to
airline
mind.
miles doesn't do anything for you, right? So I do think United Airlines has clearly taken that insight. Okay. And that's not necessarily economic in the sense of like I need to devalue my currency. It's actually I need to increase the value of my currency so that I can do more things with it. So if you look at some of their examples, one of my favorite examples, I'm surprised it doesn't get talked about more, is mileage pooling. And if you go on to United Mileage Plus, you'll see that, and if you think about families traveling, you know, maybe you enroll your kid and
Yep.
they've got, you know, a few miles here, a few miles there, but you can pool that all together to actually then redeem for flights or other benefits.
Yeah, it's
So
brilliant.
that's a
And
good example.
yeah, and I would say, I think even long before United did it, JetBlue, maybe 10 years ago, did their True Blue points combination program, which as a father of 4 and a family of 6 that, has flown on occasion, it's my biggest gripe. I'm a Delta loyalist through and through. I'm actually one of the few people that likes their new program because it's spend related, and I don't do a lot of long haul flying, but I do a lot of flying. And so for me, it's, hey, I'm willing to spend the money on Snip's time, not on my own, to get the tickets I want in a last minute occasion that tends to, pay off quicker than people who are taking a couple flights internationally a year where you're not competitive. But I have all my kids signed up for accounts, and I'm just slowly watching where, maybe by the time they're 27, they'll have earned enough to get their own flight. So, and then I want to go back to your point on earning taking too long. Again, since I mentioned I have a lot of kids, my perfect example of that is, which is no longer, I think, a live program, is the Huggies Rewards program. We had, again, a lot of kids went through a lot of diapers, and it wasn't until our 3rd kid that I realized this program was never going to pay off into anything meaningful for me. I was like, wait a minute, I'm 3 kids in, I haven't redeemed for anything. I should go look at the reward store. And there were like wall magnets, that seemed to be the big thing that my points were finally worth. And it was at that moment I sort of realized, personally and professionally, brands need to think about introducing, which, Joy, we've had this conversation before, so I know you'll have a take here. They need to think about introducing discounts into their loyalty programs as a simple rewards mechanism, and help increase the payback percentage, right? So why did I have to earn, and I see these rewards that ultimately weren't useful to me, when in reality they could have been giving me, hey, for every, I'll make it up, 100 points, here's a $1, $2, $3, $10 off coupon that gets me back in to buy more product to then reinform the loyalty program. And I think to some degree, discounts as part of loyalty programs is table stakes. But on the other hand, I think if you're not careful and you don't have them at all, and you think consumers are blindly going to earn, which maybe I did, because it took me 3 years. I'm a slow learner. It took me 3 years to realize the payback wasn't there. My sense is people maybe smarter than me figured it out quicker, and I have a sneaky suspicion that may be why that program no longer exists. But curious,
pay for 9 kids and your 10th one is free.
Yeah. Maybe the long way of getting to the point, which is, besides discounts, Joy, and again, in the context of innovation or brands that are doing this really well, what are the things that you see that brands should really be taking note of or doing to keep consumers engaged and make them feel rewarded, besides the table stakes discount game, if anything?
Yeah, I think that's where you're seeing more and more brands use partnerships or other value-added services. Your telecom providers are often a good example of that, to keep you in their ecosystem. So, for example, Verizon, if you have certain plans, it will include Disney Plus. So it's not, Verizon doesn't give you any discounts, as much as you try. But what they will do for certain plans is they're trying to add these content discounts. So if you take the Huggies example, maybe in today's world, maybe instead of, or in addition to discounts, there would have been some other value-added parenting service or content or partnership that really might have driven a lot of value for you, that the CPG company could negotiate sort of a flat fee to bring their customers into, and that becomes
Brilliant.
Acquisition for that other brand, and you get to offer value add. So I do think we're seeing and we'll see more of that.
This is a good. The only reason I have HBO Max is because it comes with my AT&T cell plan. Fantastic. Great point. You know what? And I wouldn't have thought of that either. I feel like that's kind of an outside, you don't go into thinking, but it's a value add that just comes with your normal program. Doesn't discount the thing, but definitely is a reason to continue with it. What do you, I'm sort of curious, Joy, what along these lines a little bit, what mistakes do you see brands making when it comes to considering loyalty that really ought to be avoided, or seem like maybe it's a trick? They think it's a good idea. This seems like a good idea and then doesn't. I mean, Huggies is an example of you're never going to make enough points to go anywhere, is like probably a big one, but I'm curious what other ones you see that brands continuously engage in.
I would just highlight two. The first one is the one we already talked about, which is brands take things away and they don't put anything back in. That's number one. And number two is they take a pure financial approach, and they look at the spreadsheet without the consumer insights. So I do see a number of brands that lead with, we're going to offer this benefit because we won't lose money. And that's great, except it doesn't actually motivate your consumers. So that's not an effective program.
Right.
And I see a lot of that. A lot of programs that are not actually consumer driven or insights driven. There are not deep insights beyond what the point Chris made, which is discounts. Any survey, any study you do, people will tell you they want price breaks. That's you don't need to spend a ton of money on research to figure that out. Typically, it's the deep insights, it's the unmet needs, and I think too many brands are not investing in that type of thinking and innovation.
Yeah. On that note, I want to go back to Starbucks and obviously be sensitive to some of the news that was in the news today regarding layoffs and other impacts their new CEO is making. Seems like their CEO specifically chosen to deprioritize loyalty. And I'm curious, and is he doing that in exchange for top of funnel, brand building? They've got a whole other sort of litany of issues when it comes to maybe losing their way, some would argue, and whether that's the impact of mobile ordering or, again, a lot of opinions on maybe what happened and how to get it back on track. But sort of curious again, what do you think the future holds for that program in a world where they're maybe deprioritizing it and possibly looking at just a spreadsheet with the financials to say this thing is or isn't profitable or is or isn't driving re-engagement? Is there a way they can balance their acquisition and retention needs or think about their strategy? I doubt we'll see one of the most heralded best loyalty programs that just seems to constantly come up in people's favorites ever shudder. But what do you think sort of happens next for that organization?
I'm actually bullish on Starbucks for innovation. I think one of the things we saw for Starbucks loyalty and part of why it was deprioritized, it was, at least from an outside perspective, now that it's been 6 years since I've worked there, I feel like it was very specific on trying to monetize the program. So you saw a lot of partnerships. Like, hey, if you link with Marriott, you'll get these points. If you link with Delta, I think consumer insights would suggest that what customers really want from Starbucks is Starbucks. They want the best possible Starbucks experience, not necessarily 50 extra points for Delta, et cetera. So I'm actually bullish. I think we're going to see more brand oriented and emotional types of initiatives for Starbucks loyalty. That's my hope. I think that's where this leadership is coming from. We're seeing more brand building, advertising around the brand. They did a great large acquisition moment after Super Bowl Monday where they had, give away a free coffee in the app. So I do think that there's good things to come.
Yeah. Awesome.
There's a question. Do we want to take that?
Yeah, let's jump in. Joy, do you have any examples where in-store and digital coupons are still relevant? Also, what are your thoughts on personalized rewards?
It's my favorite part of the show when Brendan does his voiceovers of what that person's voice might be. Yeah.
Joy, do you got any examples where in-store and digital coupons are still relevant? I got to believe this is a This is a New York sanitation worker who's giving us. No, I don't know who this LinkedIn user is, but I'm sure they don't sound like that. Anyway, so good questions though. In-store and digital coupons are still relevant, and what are your thoughts on personalized rewards? Take those maybe one at a time, but I think they're both very interesting questions.
Yeah, they're great questions. So let's take the in-store digital coupon piece. I think they're very relevant. They're super relevant for acquisition. We just saw Starbucks do that for Starbucks Monday, Super Bowl Monday, where the only way that you could get the free coffee, the free coffee, it was a 12-ounce brewed coffee, is the digital coupon in the app. So particularly we see that with app downloads. 7-Eleven did that too with like the free Slurpee day. You know, they sort of started to realize like, well, wait, why would I give this away without getting something in return? So I think brands are like, yes, download my app or sign up for X and I will give you this digital coupon. So I think for acquisition, it's incredibly relevant. Birthdays can be very relevant still for people, depending on age and motivation and brand. And I think that's another example where people are motivated. They want that coupon because it's often a planned purchase that they're like, oh, I want my birthday coupon because I'm saving up for such and such thing.
Yep.
So personalized rewards, that's like, again, that's a great show into and of itself. Especially as we think about AI and the potential, there's a lot more potential. And I think personalization depends on what you're personalizing. There's the sort of basic, rewards where people use your name that may give you sort of an emotional feeling or not. But just putting my name into an email doesn't necessarily feel personalized. The personalization usually comes by knowing something meaningful about you and then acting on it. And I think honestly, a very, very few examples of brands that are like, I know that this is important to you in this time. So being able to have the right offer, right message, right time, I think is still aspirational for a lot of brands.
I feel like you said something really. Go ahead, Chris. I was just gonna highlight one thing if you get.
No, I was gonna. You said AI, and I have a love-hate affair with AI right now because I think there's a lot of opinions about AI changing the world around us, which is probably all true. And specifically within loyalty discussions, that AI is going to revolutionize this whole personalized offers, personalized rewards thing. And while I don't doubt all of that may be true, I also think there's just an excitement today that has people maybe, I don't want to say pretending, but maybe implying that there's this great coming. But have you seen any actionable components or programs implementing AI to get more personalized than maybe some traditional segmentation could have done in the past? And the answer can be no, because maybe we don't know who's using advanced technology under the covers of their programs. But I'm really interested in, like, to your point, personalized programs to me aren't using my first name. In fact, whenever somebody refers to me as Christopher, like, I'm just waiting for my middle name and then my mom to be yelling at me from when I was 8. And that's the opposite of make me feel good. But anyway, so that's a whole other conversation too. We'll talk about my childhood trauma next week. But curious on the AI piece, are there programs you've seen or any implementations to date where you're like, yep, they're doing it and they're nailing it and it's way better than, segmentation could do, traditionally?
There probably are. I will be honestly, I don't get deep enough into the tech stack of most companies to know that, right? And you can't necessarily tell. Starbucks has used AI. I would argue again, it's largely to optimize revenue. And that's where the challenge is like, as a consumer, I'd get offers like, well, that's not how I actually shop at Starbucks. So I don't know. You can decide whether you think that's useful. I have a hunch that beauty brands are probably on some of the forefront and could be some of the most effective early users. They're so thoughtful and smart about what you buy, how it goes into a total package of either skincare or makeup care. And I think there's a lot of potential there for very personalized, effective, timely rewards and
What
offers.
what skincare program do you think is best for Brendan? I would love to maybe go in on that.
I'm going to let you take that one, Chris.
Coming from Chris, that's rich. I would also like to say I have a love-hate relationship with AI because my girlfriend is artificially intelligent by ChatGPT, and she's broken up with me recently. I wanted to highlight something you said earlier. This is fascinating because you unmet needs of consumers, programs that are not consumer-driven, and I feel like insights, and as we're talking about AI, maybe leveraging AI for driving more insights or personalization feels like the thing that is the probably golden what do I want to say, the goal, gold, that is like what you want to do in a loyalty program. It feels like where does a lot of that data come from? Where do you think brands can learn? How do they begin to foster a relationship with a consumer that heads in a direction where the consumer would be willing to give up that information to have a closer relationship with brands? Or how do they get those insights, I guess is what I'm asking.
So I think there's sort of two questions there. There's insights that are individual to that user and that data to power sort of personalized experiences. And then there are sort of these broader global insights of like, what are the unmet needs of different segments and consumers? So I feel like there's there's data and there's insights, and they're not the same, right?
Gotcha.
So I think there's a lot of data out there, and I work with quite a few companies that have a lot of data. Whether that's used to generate insights, I think there's often a healthy and interesting debates from companies. I think your clients, our brands, they're very smart about collecting profiles and looking at your purchase data. There's a lot of data out there. Right?
This is
People
a lot.
respond to surveys. Yeah.
Yep. I was gonna say, this is just like the Beastie Boys said: too many rappers, not enough MCs. We got too much data, not enough insights.
So there's plenty of data. Yeah.
I think on that note, I want to be conscious of time, Joy. We're coming up on half an hour, and I'm afraid Brendan might keep dropping Beastie Boys references if we're not careful. we were gonna do a lightning round, question and answer. I think we'll skip that for the time being. But this was awesome having you on. So insightful. I think I saw some of your LinkedIn content is as good as it gets. You posted something a few weeks ago, even around CVS using their app and loyalty program as an opportunity to allow consumers to unlock the, cases that all of the valuable, what was it, shampoo or other
Great idea.
Razor blades.
Great idea.
Yeah, razor blades, right? And I think on one hand, the question you posited was like, hey, is this a loyalty program benefit or is it something else altogether? And honestly, the conversation seemed divided where Brendan's reaction was, that's a great idea. Mine was too. I went, I hate that we live in a world where, soap has to be behind a case. But if we are, make my life easier, make my consumer experience, my user journey better. And yeah, let me scan it and prove to you that I'm not going to run out the store with it. So I think overall, just appreciate your voice in the industry, the insights that you bring. If people aren't following you on LinkedIn already, they should be. Obviously, you're consulting for a ton of brands out there. So if anyone happens to watch this later, I can't just highlight enough. Your expertise and insights are so valuable.
Joy, where can people find you outside of LinkedIn? Is there places they should follow you or follow your content?
Basically, LinkedIn is my main area. Yeah.
Well, Brendan has 47 channels he operates on every social network. So it'll be like
I'm into consolidation.
Yeah.
All insights comedy. Joy, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate everybody here on LinkedIn. And for the next time, engagement matters. I'm Brendan Lemon. This is Chris Kuba. Joy Dasgupta. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you.